Hi and welcome to this part of my channel. This is going to be a series of videos that I am doing about supporting a family member through depression and hospitalisation and feelings and thoughts as a support to other people, hopefully helping some people through this. Also, it is a type of therapy for me to get these things off my chest now that I've started to just do some videos. Something that as you go through, a family member or a close friend goes through, you have to deal with all of those emotions and all of those scenarios and situations as well, and you have to keep them inside, and it's just so hard to see a family member or a close friend go through that. And it's not a short, there's no short answer, there's no quick fix. It's a long journey, and it's a journey of self-discovery, of just working your way through it. And for us, we've never had anybody with depression in our family. I have a close friend that I grew up with, her brother had depression, older brother, and I never really understood it. He would be down at some days and aggressive. I never understood it, and I never took the time to understand it, and I wish I had. So going through this, my brother going through this, it's just opened my eyes to a whole nother world. Mental health is, it's so confusing and it's quite intense, and the public health system and everything, I've got views on everything to do with this. So first of all, I'm just going to do a quick intro on my brother. That is who is going through depression. Never had that as a child. It came on in adulthood, so, or late teens. It's about 18. So we grew up together. My brother is 15 months younger than me. He is 24. His name was Chris as well, if I didn't say that. So we grew up together. Our childhood was exactly the same. We were very close. We'd never had a rough childhood by any means. There was never anything that we didn't have. You know, our needs were met, our wants were met. We had a great childhood and we were very blessed. But it can happen to anybody. So he finished school. He went to a private school here in New Zealand. Had a great group of friends. He still has them now, well, the majority of them. Great group of friends, great support system. He was right into sports. He was confident, outgoing, funny. Just my best friend. And he is still my best friend. But I mean, even as a younger brother, I looked up to him. He finished school and went to university, and it's more than I've ever done, so he was kind of someone I looked up to. So he went to study a health science degree here down south in New Zealand, so he was about 8 hours away, living on his own. He stayed in the halls for the first year, and then he moved out into a flat with some friends down there. So it probably started at the end of his second year of a 3-year degree, then the beginning and halfway through the last year. He obviously went through a lot more than he led on to us. We visited him quite often, but he struggled with this a long time before he mentioned it to anybody. The struggles of university, the struggles of things he obviously had on his mind and couldn't deal with. One night he gave me a ring and he said, "I need you to come and pick me up. I'm on the roof of my building and I want to jump off." So we managed to get him a flight home the next day. Sorry, I'm on my phone and it's just sitting on my windowsill. Managed to get him a flight home, and he came home. He had to leave university. He could not continue with university. So he finished with half a year, or somewhat of a year, left of his degree. He came home, and my parents wouldn't accept that he needed to go into a hospital or a health facility. Obviously that's their son and that's their choice. I felt he needed to go see somebody, but we managed to just live, and it was basically just living through each day. And it was intense and crazy and the hardest thing ever. There was violent outrages, there was drinking, abusing his body, cutting his chest and his arms, sorry, my sister's coming home soon and I don't want to be doing this with her around. Yeah, cutting himself, drinking, abusing, things like that. Violent. At one point, I wasn't living at home at this stage, I was out in my own home, and I'm very close with my brother, and I sense things with him, when I'm not with him, we have quite a close bond. I felt like this night wasn't right, and he texted me saying something about in third person about himself, and it just didn't feel right to me. So I drove around to my parents' house in the middle of the night. My son was actually staying there, and he had thrown a chair through a glass door and was just abusing everybody. He had my dad up with like this, yelling at him, and he would never ever do that beforehand. Dad is someone that we respect and would never do that to. The neighbours called the police because of the yelling and the violence and the noises. The police tried to take him into custody to the mental health hospital. My parents would not let them do that. So he continued to stay home. A few suicide attempts in that time before my parents, I think, admitted that he needed to go and be put into hospital and get the help that he needed, the treatment that he needed. Yeah, so he went into hospital the first time. I mean, these hospitals, you don't have rules. You're not locked in there. You can be locked in there, but he went in just as a self-admitted patient, got on some drugs and things like that, medicated. Briefly, he's been in and out 3 times. The last time he'd been in was in the intensive care unit, the ICU unit. That was because he was a serious risk to himself, and he was admitted through the law to be detained there. So he was in the secure unit, he was locked in, he could not get out, he had minimal things he was allowed to have in there. No children under 15 were allowed to visit, and no phone calls, no texting, no cell phone, anything like that. It was very intense, and that was my last straw, was the ICU unit. This was after an overdose that he had taken every single pill, and my parents were up skiing with my son, came home and my son found him asleep and well comed in the ambulance and everything like that. That was my last straw of being able to cope with this on my own. And as a family member and watching someone go through those deep dark thoughts and wanting to kill themselves so badly, like he would beg me and just say, I can't do this any longer, and this is someone you grew up with, this is someone you love and care about, and I'm trying not to cry, someone you love and care about telling you that they can't live any longer, they can't deal with the thoughts and the darkness in their life, and still trying to support them through that. And I mean, you've got to try and understand that you're not going to understand, if you get what I mean on that. They are going through this, you're not going through it, you're going through with the effects of depression, but you do not know how they feel. And one thing my brother's always told me is he hates when people say, I understand, or I know how you feel, or things like that. So I can't say that to him, and I don't say that to him. The most important thing I can say to him at any point in time is, I love you, I support you, I am here for you, 100%, any time of the day, any time of the night, I will be there no matter what. And this is despite nurses telling me not to text him before he was in ICU, to not text him, not be available for those calls, because some of the calls and some of the messages that he has sent me are terrible, and they are things you probably don't want to hear, but he knows I am there for him no matter what. And I think my support has helped him hugely. I think my parents are different. They are looking more for, they ignore. I mean, some of the things he has told me are just so out of this world, just terrible. But I have to listen. He has to tell somebody. And so my advice is to just tell them that. To tell them you support them 100%. You love them, you care for them, you don't want them to kill themselves. You don't want that. You can't imagine your life without them. Your parents' life without their son, your child's life without an uncle. I mean, my son's dad is nowhere. He's the next best thing that he's got, and I've let him know that him being in this world is more than himself now. It's being an uncle and being that person for Bailey. So quickly, the hardest thing I think is going to be dealing with the suicide thoughts and some of the ideas that they've got on how they're going to do that. Now, that is something I have struggled with nightmares and those things playing out and things like that. So that is a complete brief overhaul of the last couple of years. Now we're in 2013, it is probably 4 years later, and after the ICU unit, my brother got out. I had never visited him in there. I visited him once. He's got out, he's lost 30 kilograms, he's now working, and at the moment he's doing okay. He will still have his down days, he will still have his days where he is not wanting to be here and things like that, but I'm always there, and I'm going to be there, and there's going to be down days. So briefly, that is my introduction. It is my brother going through the depression, and he is now dealing with epilepsy as well. So briefly, that is it. My message is to just stay strong, stay supported, and things like that. Next video I'm going to be doing is a little bit more in depth with timelines and things like that. So this is just a brief intro. Please follow my journey. If you do have a family member or a close friend going through the depression, I feel for you and I'm here. Any questions, anytime. So just please comment, like, follow, anything that you feel, and hopefully we can both get through this. Okay, bye guys, bye.